champ now. Yes, I didn't see him. What are you looking so sad about, champ?
I'm surprised. I mean, I'm really insulted. That's not right, what you just said.
What do you mean, what I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talking. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talking about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, one time during my career, I was on a Bomber of the Month tour.
Bomber of the Month? I would have been a bomb compared to you.
What's happening, my people? It's Cat Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Box Historian, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Salute to Miss Cass, because without her, none of this would be possible. Salute to everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cat Sports, the Box Historian. Today, why is Michael Spinks so underrated? Why is Michael Spinks so underrated? We're going to dig into that today. He was on our list yesterday when we did the underrated people, but we're going to dig into it deeply today, okay? Main thing is most people remember his last fight, the 91-second debacle against Mike Tyson, you know. They forget all about that one on the screen. Beat Larry Holmes twice in the heavyweight championship fights, you know. Everybody remembers the his last image of Michael Spinks was getting knocked out in 91 seconds by Mike Tyson. But we're going to look at that today. But let's get into our fight of the day because we're late already, about 15 minutes. So let's get this thing on started. Let's get this party started. So without further ado, today's fight of the day. Today's fight of the day is Roberto Duran versus Carlos Palomino. June 22nd, 1979. Duran versus Palomino. June the 22nd, 1979. Okay, let's get into it. Fight of the day. If one decides to write the finest performances in the amazing career of the great Roberto Duran, his 10-round tour de force against Carlos Palomino clearly merits high standing and has to find itself near the very top. Duran versus Palomino is a key contest in Duran's career, as it exhibits the skill and ring intelligence of a true pound-for-pound great, while also putting him in perfect position for his greatest triumph, a huge multi-million-dollar showdown with Sugar Ray Leonard a year later. Duran had dominated the lightweight division since 1972, and in the process, established himself as one of the finest boxers of his era. Perhaps the best lightweight since Benny Leonard, certainly the most dominant since Ike Williams. But now, after a final big win over rival Esteban de Jesus, he was moving up, and the jury was still out as to whether Roberto could compete as effectively against naturally bigger men. Having abdicated his 135-pound title in early 1978, Duran bided his time, engaging in 4 stay busy tilts as he waited for a shot at the welterweight crown. Instead, the perfect opportunity arrived, a chance to shine in Madison Square Garden against a former champion who was still regarded as a top fighter in the division. Okay? Yes, indeed, boxing. Salute, Shawa. How are you today? Our fight of the day just started. Roberto Duran versus Carlos Palomino. And this fight was in 1979. June 22nd, 1979. I believe this was the fight before he had moved to welterweight. I think this might be the one right before the Sugar Ray Leonard showdown, when Duran beat him for the welterweight title. But yeah, salute. Shawa, how are you today? Fine. Blessings to you. Okay, let's continue. Yeah, this was a big opportunity for Duran in Madison Square Garden against a former champion at welterweight, and Palomino was still regarded as a dangerous fighter in the welterweight division. Okay? So, Carlos Palomino was anything but a burnt-out ex-champ, looking for one last big payday. Nor had he been a paper champion. Having won the title from Britain's John Stracey, Palomino had defended it 7 times against some excellent contenders, including Armando Muniz and Dave Green. And there was certainly no shame in losing his belt to one of the most gifted boxers in the sport's history, Wilfredo Benitez. While Duran deserved to be the odds-on favorite, all agreed This was potentially a tough challenge for the former terror of the lightweight division. Yes, it was a very tough challenge for Duran, Carlos Palomino. Mike Grimm in the building. What's up, Mike Grimm? Fight of the day, Roberto Duran versus Carlos Palomino. Duran had moved to welterweight, was getting ready to challenge Sugar Ray Leonard, but this was a tough out right here, Carlos Palomino. You know, many people were saying Carlos Palomino, Duran might not get to Leonard. He had to get past Carlos first. Did he? Let's see. Now, the irony was that the fight was on the undercard of a nationally televised world heavyweight title fight, Larry Holmes versus Mike Weaver. Yet, there was far more buzz in boxing circles for Duran versus Palomino than for the night's main attraction, Holmes versus Weaver. In fact, with Muhammad Ali having retired the year before, the public was paying renewed attention to the lower weight classes now, especially as they now offered such exciting talents and fresh faces as Sugar Ray Leonard, Howard Davis Jr., and Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Duran, a major attraction since at least 1972, was transcending his Latin fan base and assuming the image of one of the game's legends, an older statesman, at just the right time. But to get to the big opportunity ahead, he had to get past Palomino first. Okay? He had to get past Palomino first. Aside from firmly establishing Roberto as a serious threat at 147 pounds, Duran versus Palomino proved to be perhaps the clearest demonstration yet of how the Hands of Stone had evolved into a truly complete fighter. Having entered the sport as a raw, powerful brawler, Roberto had developed with the help of master trainer Ray Arcel and Freddie Brown into a sophisticated boxer puncher, aggressive, powerful, but also clever, creative, and surprisingly hard to hit. His reputation as a crude slugger now worked to his advantage as he took opponents by surprise with the sophistication of his tactics. Palomino had clearly prepared for Duran, who would attempt to overpower him, but Roberto respected the former champion's ability and set about putting everything he had learned to use in the process, offering fans a memorable performance of skill and technical virtuosity. The Hands of Stone. Skill and technical virtuosity in his new division. That's the joined by the sports artist Damian Burton of Duran. Now, while a fast-paced action fight, there was little drama. Many scored it a shutout. Just as Palomino wasn't on the same level as the defensive wizard Benitez, he also wasn't in the same league as a motivated and fit Roberto Duran. Manos Di Piedra, somewhat surprisingly, turned out to be clearly the stronger fighter with the more damaging punch. It was official. Duran's fearsome power had not abandoned him in the migration to the higher weight. He scored a knockdown with an overhand right in round 6 and won almost every minute of every round of the fight. In short, a tough challenge surprisingly became a rout for Duran. Became a rout. And Palomino was a tough out, but Roberto made it look easy. As Pat Putnam vividly reported in Sports Illustrated, Duran bewildered Palomino with flicking head and shoulder feints. He battered him with punches thrown at blinding speed. At times, just for fun, Duran feinted from the left, feinted from the right, and then, with Palomino in a flux of frantic confusion, Duran stepped back and flashed a wolfish grin as Palomino untangled himself. Could Duran compete with the welterweights? The answer was an emphatic yes. Yeah, this was the fight. A few months later, Sugar Ray Leonard would defeat Wilfred Benitez for Palomino's old title. And the countdown immediately began for one of the biggest and most anticipated fights in boxing history. Roberto Duran versus Sugar Ray Leonard. Everybody know what happened in that one. Roberto shocked the world and took Sugar Ray's title. Okay, that was the fight of the day. So today, we got a few things. We're going to start out with why is Michael Spinks so underrated? A lot of it has to do with his last fight. Was it 91-second demolition he took for Mike Tyson? And that's what most people remember him for. They don't remember the two fights with Holmes, the two heavyweight title fights with Holmes. Everybody remembers your last performance. And Spinks retired after that. Spinks said the great Eddie Futchin had a great game plan and everything, but they said he was scared. Emmanuel Stewart was in attendance, and he said it was taking Spinks a long time to come out. Emmanuel said he went in the Spinks dressing room, and Spinks was afraid to come out of the dressing room to make his ring walk to the ring, right? He was actually scared to come out. They say the fight started late, almost 12 a.m. in the morning. Michael Spinks made his ring walk like almost 11:30. Yeah. But he had the great Eddie Futchin, had a great game plan. He had a good jab, and he had that Spinks jinx right hand. Kind of like Buster Douglas did, Mike. Spinks had a good jab, and then when Mike got past that jab, Spinks had that Spinks jinx right hand waiting for him. But Spinks was so scared when he got to the ring, he forgot what the game plan was. Some say he took a dive. I don't know. Probably was a fight he couldn't win, but he got paid. But let's get into it. Why is Michael Spinks so underrated? He got paid. Never fought again. What's up, Bruce Gas, Boxing, Jazz, and more? We're getting ready to talk about why is Michael Spinks so underrated. I was saying, Bruce, everybody remember his last performance, against Mike Tyson. They forgot about the two fights with Holmes. But, everybody remembers the last thing you did. So, yeah. That was the last image of Michael Spinks in the ring. Getting knocked out in 91 seconds. But salute, Bruce Gas. Let's get into it, though. See why Michael Spinks is so underrated as a boxer. I don't think he gets his props. Late 70s going into the 80s was one of the greatest eras of light heavyweight. And Michael Spinks was the king. They had a lot of great heavyweights back around that time. I mean, light heavyweights. Heavyweights, too, but they had a lot of great light heavyweights when Michael Spinks was reigning in that division. And he did become heavyweight champion, too. He broke Larry Holmes' streak. Larry Holmes had 48 straight wins, had never lost. Trying to tie Rocky. Spinks broke that streak. Yep. But why is Michael Spinks so underrated? Now, Mike is underrated and not remembered as a great champion solely because most casual fans judge him solely by his disastrous fight against Mike Tyson, last one of his career. Mike Spinks was a great fighter, a truly great fighter, as an amateur and as a pro. and should be remembered as the Hall of Fame boxer that he is, and Olympic gold medalist too. Mm-hmm. Michael Spinks is a legendary great fighter who is in the International Boxing Hall of Fame and deserves to be in there. He is the first light heavyweight champion since Gene Tunney to become heavyweight champion way back in the 20s, right? Mike had fights with some of those other great light heavyweights I was talking about from the 80s, like Yaki Lopez, Mustafa Masaja, the white Muhammad Qawi. Mike was a great fighter, worthy of the honor of the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Now, Gene Tunney was the first boxer to hold a light heavyweight championship and then move up and take the heavyweight title back in 1926. And it didn't happen again until Michael Spinks repeated this feat with two very, very close and very controversial decisions over Larry Holmes. Mm-hmm. Went from the 20s all the way to the 80s, 60 years. BBO Sports TV in the building. What's up, BBO? How are you today? We talk about why is Michael Spinks so underrated, BBO? And the main thing is because, everybody judging him on that last fight, remember? The 91-second demolition by Mike Tyson. And then he retired. That was the last image everybody had of him. And, some casuals don't even know he beat Larry Holmes twice. But the judges said he beat Larry Holmes twice. I don't think he beat him neither time. But the judges said he did, and that's what's in the official record. But a lot of casual fans don't even know that. They just remember Mike Tyson beating him in 91 seconds. But he is very underrated. Very underrated. An interesting footnote in history is that Bob Fitzsimmons relinquished the middleweight title to fight as a heavyweight, winning the crown 2 years later. The only fighter to ever do so directly from middleweight to heavyweight. And after losing the heavyweight title, he won the light heavyweight title in 1903. Now, Roy Jones also did that too, but like 100 years later after Bob Fitzsimmons. Now, Sam Langford in his prime years could have fought at middleweight, light heavyweight, or heavyweight, and would certainly have won a title at middleweight and light heavyweight, and perhaps even heavyweight, but he never got the chance. Ezzard Charles was never given a title shot at either middleweight or light heavyweight, even though he too was a natural middleweight. And Ezzard ended up fighting for and winning the heavyweight title and defending the undisputed title 8 times. And Ezzard never won the light heavyweight title, but a lot of people still say he's the best light heavyweight ever. Now, Michael Spinks is unfortunately remembered by most for his loss to Mike Tyson. Like Floyd Patterson, whose reputation was destroyed by his losses to Sonny Liston, Michael Spinks has seen his badly damaged by his loss to Mike Tyson. Mm-hmm. At the time, there were claims he somehow laid down and threw the fight to Tyson. Those claims were absurd, backed by nothing. No kind of proof or anything. I think he just got beat bad. And Spinks, like Patterson, froze up when confronted by the second most intimidating fighter of all time. And Patterson froze up to the most intimidating fighter, Liston. And Mike did the same thing to Tyson. He froze up and took a beating. And it has sadly diminished his legacy. Yup, sadly diminished his legacy. Badly. But Spinks is well-deservedly in the Hall of Fame. It is an all-time great whose legacy is very underrated. Now, he's generally rated as the 5th best light heavyweight in history, which is in line with his BoxRec rating. Now, Michael Spinks prepared carefully to fight Mike Tyson, and he had a good chance to win that fight. Spinks was a great fighter and a pro, and went in the training camp with Eddie Futch, one of history's great trainers, whipped himself into fabulous shape, and devised with Eddie Futch a sound and effective fight plan. Essentially, Eddie planned for Mike to do what Buster Douglas would do 2 years later: circle outside and jab Tyson with his 5-inch reach advantage. And when Mike rushed forward to hit him, Spinks would hit him with that Spinks jinx, his lethal right hand. Survived the early rounds until Mike got tired, because around that time, Mike wasn't going deep in fights too much, remember? So yeah, they had a great game plan. Jab him, see if he slipped past that jab, catch him with that Spinks jinx, right hand, and survive early, and get him into deep waters and drown him. But then, the whole plan went straight to hell. Yep. When the fight started, he totally abandoned his game plan, forgot his training, and again, our whole game plan just went straight to hell. Yeah, I told you Emanuel Stewart went in the dressing room before the fight and said Spinks was scared to come out. Was actually scared to come out of the dressing room. But he wanted that big paycheck. He had to go in there, had to at least get in the ring. He only lasted 91 seconds, but he got it. He got that big paycheck. But yeah, the game plan, he just forgot the entire game plan. And the fear caused Michael Spinks to deviate from what Eddie Futch had trained him to do in the fight. Eddie Futch believed the key to beating Mike Tyson was surviving the early rounds and letting Tyson gas, thinking that he was less effective as the rounds went by. But remember, that was Kevin Rooney trained Mike Tyson, so it wasn't no guarantee he was going to gas, because Mike was in excellent conditioning back then. Mike was a gym rat at that time, but that was the best game plan they could come up with, right? It was a smart plan. It's not no guarantee if Michael Spinks had survived that it would have worked, though. Now, Eddie Futch had trained Spinks to stick him and move, jab, 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 hit him with the right hand when he could. Now, Spinks had not even warmed up in his dressing room, as he normally did. He was so scared, he didn't even warm up. He went to the ring cold, which he had never done before, as an amateur or professional. Went to the ring cold. Never done that before. And fighting Mike Tyson from the outside, out of the shorter Tyson's deadly range, using his jab and countering with the Spinks jinx. As Tyson rushed forward to get inside, Spinks' considerably longer reach was a sound strategy. But Spinks, terrified in his dressing room, had failed to warm up, as noted earlier, and was not ready when the fight began. He didn't warm up, he forgot the game plan, he just unraveled. And the closer he got to the ring, the worse he started looking. Just totally unraveled. Spinks, who later said he was desperate to earn respect, came forward in the first round and exchanged with Tyson. Forgot the game plan. He went in there and went up in the pocket from the jump. Forgot to jab and all, and move circle on the outside. He just totally forgot the game plan. Went in there, went inside and exchanged with Tyson. 91 seconds later, the story was over. Mike Tyson used intimidation as part of his game plan against everybody back in the day. Yeah. A lot of the fighters were beaten before they even got to the ring, like Michael Spinks, Trevor Berbick. I remember doing when the referee had Mike and Trevor Burbick in the middle giving the final instructions in the ring, right? Trevor looked like he was actually trembling. Real experts, fighters, trainers, boxing historians will tell you that at least half of Mike Tyson's dominance was due to his opponents being beaten before they ever stepped foot in the ring. Boxing historian John Vale said of Tyson, the prime sub-220-pound Tyson brought unheralded levels of force into the boxing ring, eclipsing the fear factor seen even with other notorious wrecking balls, such as Sonny Liston. Yeah, Mike fear factor was up there with Sonny Liston. But Sonny Liston, at least fighters was getting in the ring with Mike. Back in Sonny Liston's day, fighters just flat out said, I'm not fighting. At least they would get in there with Mike and get knocked out in 90 seconds. But back in Sonny Liston's era, many fighters just flat out said, I ain't fighting him. It didn't fight him, right? So, yeah, I think Sonny was a little bit more intimidating than Mike. They would get in there with Mike, but Sonny, they wouldn't even get in the ring. Like, no, I'm not doing it. The publication Fight City has Sonny Liston as the most intimidating fighter of all time. With, you guessed it, Mike Tyson, number 2. Not George Foreman, Mike Tyson, number 2. Those who were not around back then don't remember that Tyson was the most feared fighter on the planet in the 80s. James Bone Crusher Smith said of prime Mike Tyson. This is what Bone Crusher said, one of his opponents. Bone Crusher said most guys were beat before they even got into the ring. Bone Crusher also had the best prediction of anyone about the fight, Tyson and Spinks. Bone Crusher said, unless Spinks takes me in the ring with him, he ain't got a chance. I don't even think he would have had a chance with Bone Crusher in there with him. Bone Crusher got beat too, remember? So you're talking about take him in there with him. Bone Crusher. Like he could beat Tyson. Now, Michael Spinks did not even like boxing. He learned to fight to survive. Mike Spinks and his brother Leon grew up in a bleak part of the ghetto in St. Louis, Missouri. They were brought up by their mother. Their father was not a part of their lives. And life was a constant struggle to literally have food to eat. Boxing was both self-defense and a way out. Leon Spinks said, if you couldn't box, you'd get your ass whipped. He said, me and Mike took a lot of ass whippings when we were young. Michael Spinks' amazing career as an amateur boxer. He was a very decorated amateur and ended up with the Olympic gold medal in his last amateur fight. Yep. Now, Mike Spinks and his 6 brothers and sisters, including brother and fellow heavyweight champion Leon, were raised by a single mother, Kay, K-A-Y, Kay. He was a quiet and reserved child who, along with his older brother, Leon, was bullied. The family lived in the infamous and bleak Pruitt-Eagle low-income housing project in St. Louis, Missouri. Pruitt-Eagle was so bad, the city dynamited all 33 identical 11-story buildings in 1972. Just dynamited them, blew them up. They ain't just close them down, they dynamited them bad boys. Like, we got to get rid of them. Michael Spinks and Leon grew up without their father as a part of their lives. And life was a constant struggle for the family to survive. Now, Mike Spinks started boxing at age 14, again to learn to defend himself. And he ended his amateur career with a record of 93 wins and 7 losses. And he won the 1974 light junior middleweight, 156 pounds in the amateurs junior middleweight, National Golden Gloves Championship. He won the 1976 middleweight, 165 in the amateurs, National Golden Gloves Championship in Miami, Florida. And he won the middleweight gold medal for the United States at the 1976 Olympic Games in Montreal, Canada. Same one Leon, one is in Sugar Ray Leonard. I think Big John Tate got a silver. He lost to Teofilo from Cuba. Howard Davis got gold too. Howard Davis was an outstanding boxer. I forgot that award they give you for being that, but Howard Davis got that, not Sugar Ray. Yeah. And the Spinks, the Spinks brothers, Michael and Leon, were members of arguably the greatest United States boxing team in history. Yep, Michael got it as a middleweight. Leon was a light heavyweight. And Michael be the Cuban. Leon be the guy from Russia. But after the Olympics, surprisingly, Mike did not turn pro immediately. For one thing, again, he did not particularly like boxing. It was a means to get out of the ghetto and a means to survive while he was in it. But that did not mean he truly enjoyed it. Secondly, he was taking care of his mother. And thirdly, he was helping his brother, Leon, whose rise was meteoric. His fall was even more so. Sorry, Leon. It was not until 1977, the following year after the Olympics, that Butch Lewis convinced Michael Spinks that he was a fool to be cleaning toilets at a St. Louis factory when he could be earning a fortune boxing. Yeah, after the Olympics, he got a job as a janitor in St. Louis. And then Butch Lewis, his manager and promoter, convinced him to box. Yeah, Butch Lewis, you the guy that would have a suit and tie on with no shirt. Or a tuxedo and a bow tie but no shirt. I don't know what Butch Lewis had against shirts. But you ever see somebody with a suit and tie on with no shirt? Yeah, Butch Lewis. That was crazy. Now, Michael Spinks' late entry into the pro ranks and martial light heavyweight champion. Let's talk about that. Yeah, Butch Lewis. I wish I had a picture of him. A suit and tie with no shirt on. Come on, man. Mike Mazik in the building. What's up, Mike Mazik? Or a tuxedo with a little tie, bow tie around his neck with no shirt on. Yeah. Man had something against shirts. Maybe he couldn't afford shirts. And after he bought his suits and stuff, he had no money left, so I don't know. But salute Mike Mazik. Okay, let's continue with Michael. We're going to talk about his entry into the pro ranks and his rise to light heavyweight champion. And he was king of the light heavyweights at arguably the best light heavyweight era in history. Late 70s going into the 80s. Yeah, with some real killers in that division back then. Well, Michael Spinks entered the pro ranks in 1977. And in 1981, he won the light heavyweight title from Eddie Mustafa Muhammad. In 1983, after a terrible tragedy, Spinks met Dwight Qualley and unified the title, becoming undisputed light heavyweight champion. The tragedy, which struck his life, was 2 months prior to his already contractual unification fight, when in January 1983, his 24-year-old wife, Sandy Massey, I don't think she was his wife. I know she was the mother of his child, though. 24-year-old Sandy Massey died in a car crash, leaving Spinks the single parent of their 2-year-old daughter, Michelle. Nonetheless, Spinks went ahead and met Qualley and became undisputed champion. Yep, that was the fight in the locker room. They was getting ready to come out, and his daughter asked him, was her mother going to be out there in the audience? Yeah. And Mike broke down, but he still had to go out there and fight. Wasn't that something after that? The 2-year-old daughter asked you that a couple months after her mother died in a car accident. She asked Michael, was her mother going to be out there in the audience, watch the fight? But yeah, he went on with the fight, became undisputed. Then he moved up to challenge for the heavyweight title after that. And Michael Spinks is one of just 2 fighters to an Olympic gold as a middleweight and ascend to the heavyweight title. After 4 title defenses at light heavyweight, Spinks decided to move up and face Larry Holmes for the heavyweight title. And the move was primarily financial. The blunt fact was that the light heavyweight title was worth only a fraction of what a heavyweight championship fight could bring. Case in point, the Tyson fight 2 years after the Holmes fight brought Michael Spinks more money than he earned as a light heavyweight altogether. All his light heavyweight fights, that one Tyson fight earned him more money than all of those light heavyweight fights he had in his career put together. One heavyweight fight, right? So the heavyweight division was definitely where the money was at. Now, Michael came into that fight with Larry Holmes 26-0. And Holmes was aging at the time, right? And this was for the title. Holmes was 48-0, one short of Rocky Marciano. Now, I thought he won. I thought he lost both of them, but the judges gave him a very narrow decision both times. Now, Spinks defended his heavyweight title twice, but on February 28, 1987, he was stripped by the IBF for refusing to fight number one contender Tony Tucker. Don King had won the right to promote a Spinks-Tucker title fight with a purse bid of $711,000. In the case of a purse bid, the purse is divided 75% to 25% in favor of the champion. It was way like that way back then, 75-25. That would be in Spinks earning $533,000 instead of the $4 million he had been offered to fight Jerry Cooney. So I don't blame Spinks. Here, IBF, you can have his belt. He getting $4 million to fight Cooney, but only $500,000 to fight Tucker. Yeah, belt ain't that important. That's what, $3.5 billion difference, right? $4 million was more than 8 times what Don King was going to pay him. And as Michael Spinks said, he wouldn't have to deal with Don King. Somebody else was promoting the Cooney fight. So he took the Cooney fight. But he did offer to fight Tucker next after the Cooney fight when he got the $4 million, right? Again, this was also more than all his previous purses combined. This was before the Tyson fight. But Don King would not let that happen. He wanted a part of the title immediately, more than he wanted step-aside money and the next title shot, okay? But I don't think Tucker was going to beat Spinks, no way. Don King was Tucker's promoter, yeah. I would have had Spinks in that one against Tucker. Anyway, I don't think Tucker was going to win that fight. But Spinks wanted that $4 million. I don't blame him. $4 million or $500,000. Take the belt. Now, Spinks knocked Cooney out in the 5th round on June 15th, 1987. That was a $4 million fight. And the fight was considered a world title fight by Ring Magazine and more than a dozen state boxing commissions. And Michael Spinks was retiring before being offered more money than he had made in his life to fight Mike Tyson. He was planning on retiring. But then he got offered $4 million was his biggest payday. I think he got like 13 to fight Mike, somewhere up in that range in the teens. So he said, well, I'll retire after this fight then. And again, Michael Spinks did not enjoy boxing. He boxed to get a better life. And he was at the end of doing so. He felt he had made enough money. And after the Cooney fight, Spinks decided to retire, wanting to devote himself and have more time with his daughter, Michelle. Because remember, her mother had died in a car accident. Michael was all she had. So he was getting ready to retire after the Cooney fight, making the $4 million. He felt he was set. Then, all of a sudden, an offer was made for him to fight Mike Tyson for $13.5 million, which was more than he had made in every other one of his previous 31 fights combined. Okay? So he had to take that. Mike felt he had to take this offer and the fight and postpone retirement for one more fight. But he did retire after the Tyson fight. He did retire after that 13. So he got 17. He got 4 for Cooney and 13.5 for Mike. But when he took the Tyson fight, his heart really was out of boxing, right? Because he had already made up his mind he was going to retire and spend more time with his daughter. But then they came up with that 13.5 million, but his heart wasn't in it, right? If it had ever been in it, because he really never liked boxing. And to add insult to injury, he was having to face the second most intimidating fighter in boxing history, right? Coming out of retirement, planned retirement, his heart not in it, and then facing Iron Mike Tyson. And he was Iron Mike Tyson at that time, right? So, and his heart wasn't in it either. Spinks, for all his family's financial security, he felt he had to take this fight, and he did. And the irony is that a naturally humble Mike Spinks does not care about ratings. Michael Spinks, a humble and decent man, didn't care whether he is underrated. He believes his career spoke for itself. And in the end, as Larry Holmes said so well, he fought for a better life for his family. So forget underrated. That last $17 million set him up. Larry Holmes said, I fought for money. I didn't fight to be the heavyweight champion of the world. I didn't fight to say I kicked someone's ass. I didn't fight for bragging rights. I got into fighting to make money. Larry Holmes. And Mike Spinks could have said it too. Mike did say, that's why I worked for. So whenever I did retire, I wanted to have enough money to do exactly what I want. I'm raising children. I have 3 children, so I'm trying to be the best father I can with them, and I'm having a good time. Nonetheless, Michael Spinks should not be remembered as he is. He deserves to be remembered as a great champion. Michael Spinks fought 3 legitimate Hall of Fame fighters, Dwight Quawi Muhammad, Larry Holmes, and Mike Tyson, and beat 2 of the 3, winning 3 fights out of 4 against fellow Hall of Fame fighters. 3 out of 4 against fellow Hall of Famers in his career. Spinks was the first light heavyweight champion to step up and win the heavyweight world title after whipping the number 12, number 57, number 58, and number 77 all-time light heavyweights. Hall of Famer Dwight Muhammad Quawi, Marvin Johnson, Eddie Muhammad, and Yaki Lopez, among others. Michael Spinks also has 2 victories over the number 14 heavyweight of all time, Larry Holmes, and a resounding knockout of the number 106 heavyweight of all time, Jerry Cooney. Ring Magazine in 2002 ranked Spinks as the 3rd greatest light heavyweight of all time, behind only Ezra Charles and the old mongoose, Archie Moore. On Ring Magazine's list of 100 greatest punchers of all time, Spinks was ranked 42nd. On Ring Magazine's list of the 80 best fighters of the last 80 years, released in 2002, Michael Spinks was 41. Michael Spinks went undefeated fighting during the deepest era in light heavyweight history. And he beat the real heavyweight champion to win the heavyweight title, who was also undefeated, Larry Holmes. Michael Spinks is the most accomplished light heavyweight champion in history. He deserves to be remembered as a great champion, an International Boxing Hall of Fame fighter, which he is, Michael Spinks, one of the most underrated fighters in boxing history. Okay, let's take a look at, man, I didn't even show my pictures. Here's him and Holmes. Sam Langford. We're gonna take a look at, now, the best to never win a title. Some of the best to never win a title. Okay, that was going to be the whole show when I broke it down. I had done this like a couple of years ago. I broke it down a little bit shorter. The best to never win a title in boxing history. That's the best right there, Sam Langford. I didn't have a lot of time, so Sam going to represent the entire thing as the image. I didn't get a chance to do everybody, but the best to never win a title in boxing history. Some of them anyway. They call Sam Langford the greatest fighter to never win a title. Between him and Charlie Burley. Yeah, those two. Sam did fight, well, he won the colored title, but regular heavyweight, he fought for the welterweight title against the first black welterweight champion. And they said Sam won, but they robbed him and gave it to the other guy. I forgot his name. Was it Barbados Joe Walcott? Might have been him. Early 1900s. And then Charlie Burley never fought for a title. Well, Charlie fought for the colored welterweight and colored middleweight, but as far as the regular title. Yeah, the best fighters to never win a title. Now. Okay. How's everybody? It's Thursday. Tomorrow is going to be the life and career of Frank Bruno. Okay. Frank Bruno. So let's get into these fighters. Now, there were many men in the heavyweight division who never won world titles, who were truly championship material. Probably the man who comes most to mind was Sam Langford. Born in Weymouth Falls, Digby County, Nova Scotia in 1886, that's in Canada. Sam Langford ran away from home at the age of 12 and worked his way to Boston, Massachusetts. Sam never held a world boxing title, although he fought and defeated many of those who did. After just 3 years as a pro, Langford and his manager felt he was ready for the heavyweight big leagues. Excuse me. In 1906, Langford took on Jack Johnson, who was the colored heavyweight champion at that time. And Johnson was a contender for the regular heavyweight championship. It took Johnson, who was in his prime and had both a huge size and weight advantage, 15 rounds to defeat Langford. Thereafter, Johnson never gave Langford a rematch for fear that he might lose his title, because Johnson went on to win the regular heavyweight title, but he wouldn't fight Sam. Never fought Sam again after he did beat him in fighting for the color title, but it took him 15 rounds. And he never fought Sam again. Yep. When Johnson won the regular heavyweight championship, 2 years later, after he beat Sam for the color heavyweight championship, he was even more determined to keep his title and stayed far away from Sam Langford. Far away. Far, far away from Sam Langford. Throughout his prime, Sam Langford was in an unusual boxing situation. Although his weight permitted him to fight in weight divisions other than heavyweight, no champion would risk his title against him in any weight class, and not incidentally. Sam went all the way from like lightweight to heavyweight. Only one champion fought him in all those weight classes. Only one. And they say Sam won that fight, but they robbed him. That was at welterweight. And America at the time had no desire to see a black champion. Between 1902 and 1923, Sam Langford fought nearly 300 recorded fights in every division, from lightweight to heavyweight. Wow. Yeah, 135 to heavyweight. He fought in every division, recorded fights. He was rarely defeated, but never got the title fight he deserved. He did get one at welterweight. Langford fought and beat many of the top fighters in his time, but they did this a lot back then. They would specify the title was not on the line, especially when Sam Langford was in the other corner. You know, the title is not on the line. What's up, Just Do Boxing? Coming up at 4 p.m. today. Balanced, unbiased boxing talk. Giving everybody their just due. Salute Just Do Boxing. Yeah, when they fought, the champions would fight, Sam, but they would have in the contract in big black letters, the title is not on the line. Okay? Read that out loud back to me, Sam, so you know. The title was not on the line. Nobody was fighting for the title. Fought from lightweight to heavyweight. Couldn't get nobody to put the title up against him. Men like Harry Wills, he had to fight other black fighters, right? Men like Harry Wills, they fought 21 times. He fought Joe Jeanette, Sam McVeigh, and John Lester Johnson. All these men were denied their rightful shot at the championship because of their race. Now, Langford also fought and defeated several outstanding white fighters who were not fearful of crossing the color line, but the title wasn't on the line. He fought Ed Gunboat Smith. He beat Gunboat twice, 12-round decision and a third-round knockout. And he fought former light heavyweight champ, Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, one time, 5th-round knockout. Of course, it was an honor. Jack O'Brien had the championship at that time, but of course, it was in the contract. The title is not on the line, Sam. By the early 1920s, Langford's advancing blindness began to cause problems, but not before he won the heavyweight championship of Mexico and Spain in 1923. A knockout by a virtual nobody in 1926 finally convinced him to withdraw from the ring. Sam Langford died in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1956, a year after his election into the Ring Magazine's Boxing Hall of Fame. He was the first non-champion ever to be so honored. And he's in the International. That just started in 1990, the big one, in the National Boxing Hall of Fame. He's in that one too. Now, there were other good heavyweights who never won a title either. Taylor Tom Sharkey was a truly great heavyweight who fought and beat many top heavyweights in his time, but the division was just too strong for him to become champion. In more recent times, men like Cleveland Williams, Jerry Quarry, as two men who could have won a title or two today, but they were in the golden age of the heavyweights. That's the only thing stopped them. You know, Ali, Foreman, Frazier, Norton, all of them. Cleveland Williams had an extremely hard punch and was an excellent fighter, but he was so good, many fighters ducked him. Corey was unlucky enough to come along when the heavyweight division was at its strongest. Ali, Frazier, Foreman, and Norton all were at or near their prime when Corey was fighting. So Jerry could never win the title. But he would have one nowadays. Jerry would definitely have a title nowadays. We talked about some boxers that, some of the best fighters that never got a championship. Okay. Now, in the older days of boxing, the light heavyweight division was considered the bastard division. Sort of the way many look at the cruiserweight division. We looked at the cruiserweight division a few years back, just like a rest stop between middleweight and heavyweight back then, because we didn't have cruiserweight. And, you know, like the 80s, 90s, cruiserweight was looked at like a rest stop between light heavyweight and heavyweight. Didn't stay there long. Most outstanding fighters in the light heavyweight division considered the light heavyweight title a way station. They looked to step up to heavyweight, where the real money was at. Mm-hmm. The finest fighter in the division never to win the title might well have been the finest fighter ever in the division, Ezra Charles. Many of Ezra Charles' early fights were against the world's top middleweights and light heavyweight. He defeated the likes of Teddy Yaros, Charlie Burley, and Joey Maxim, and had a draw with Ken Overland. After military service during World War II, Ezra Charles defeated Hall of Famer Archie Moore and avenged losses to Lloyd Marshall and Jimmy Bivens to earn a number 2 ranking of light heavyweight in 1946. Ezzard fought 5 light heavyweight champions, beating 4 of them. But again, the title was not on the line. Never challenged for the light heavyweight title. Fought 5 light heavyweight when they had the title. Beat 4 of them, but the title wasn't on the line. Not against Ezzard. But he did go up and become heavyweight champion. Yep. Jimmy Bivens was another who made a career out of defeating good fighters, being top rated and never getting a shot at the light heavyweight title. This happened in spite of defeating 8 world champions and being in the top 10 in one division or another from 1940 until 1953. This man was in the top 10 for 13 years, but never got a title shot. Incredibly, in 1942, he was rated as the #1 contender in the light heavyweight and heavyweight divisions at the same time and never got a title shot in neither one of them. The man was #1 at light heavyweight and heavyweight at the same time and never got a title shot in neither division. During a streak from June 22nd, 1942 until February 25th, 1946, Bivens was undefeated with 1 draw, and the list of men he beat reads like a who's who of that era. Joey Maxim, Joe Moscato, Terry Moriello, Bob Pastor, Lisa Vold, Ezzard Charles, Anton Christoforidis, Pat Valentino, Lloyd Marshall, Lee Murray, Melio Bettina, Curtis the Hatchet Man Shepard, Archie Moore, and Johnny Flynn, and Billy Smith, just to name some of them. And prior to his loss on April 17, 1942 to Bob Pastor, he had Pastor down twice in the first round. He had also defeated Billy Seuss and the then current light heavyweight champion, Gus Lesnovich. And you guessed it, he beat the light heavyweight champion, and guess what? A non-title bout, a non-title fight. That's outrageous, man. This man was #1 at light heavyweight and heavyweight at the same time and never got a title shot. Wow. In 1942, Jimmy Bivens was rated the #1 contender in the light heavyweight and heavyweight divisions at the same time. When Bivens' career ended, 4 wins in a row in 1955, he had beaten 86 opponents, most of them champions or top contenders. His biggest payday was $40,000 for his 1951 fight with Joe Louis. He lost on points, and Joe Louis was knocked out by Rocky Marciano in his very next fight. So Jimmy Bivens softened him up for Rocky. Bivens was actually a natural light heavyweight. At 5'9". Many opponents towered over him. In more recent times, the best light heavyweight never to have won the title was Yaki Lopez. He fought in the 80s, Michael Spinks, late 70s, 80s. Yaki Lopez fought and beat many of the top contenders of the time, including former champs John Conte and Mike Rossman. He was robbed of the title by a horrendous decision against Victor Galindez. Yeah, most of the time, by the time that era came, the champion had to put his title on the line. It wasn't that nonsense about non-title fights and stuff. But he beat Victor Galindez, but they robbed him. Mm-hmm. They robbed Yaki Lopez. Yep. Let's see something. Got a couple more to go. Michael Spinks. Fighters that didn't win the championship. Okay, then we got a couple more too, yeah. Bob Satterfield and Oscar Bonavena. Okay, let's continue with this. Let me peek at the chat real quick. Okay, yeah, we're good. Okay, so Jimmy Bivens. Isn't that crazy though? He was number one contender at light heavyweight and heavyweight at the same time and never got a title shot in either division. Now, of course, the best middleweight never to win a title was Charlie Burley from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But they did put him still put him in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. And legendary trainer Eddie Futch has called Charlie Burley the greatest all-around fighter he ever saw. And that is quite a compliment, considering Futch's vast experience and all the fighters he trained. Now, Charlie Burley has the praise of many former opponents, even men who beat him. The fabulous old mongoose Archie Moore rated Charlie Burley near the top of the opponents that he ever faced. Burley's listed 98 fights show that he was never stopped, while he knocked out 50 men himself. And like Sam Langford, he too wasn't afraid to get into the ring with larger men. And again, like Langford, he was also forced to fight many of the best black fighters of the time, while hoping for a title shot, usually held by a white man. He met some real tough fighters like Holman Williams 7 times, Coco Kidd, Lloyd Marshall, Oakland Billy Smith, Jimmy Bivens, Archie Moore, and Ezra Charles. And the white fighters he did fight were good ones, like Fritzy Zivik 3 times, Billy Seuss, fighters of that caliber. After 84 wins, Burley still couldn't get a title shot, although he was ranked near the top of the welterweights in the late 30s and then right through the 40s as a middleweight. And this didn't have nothing to do with race. This was just how good he was. Because white champions, black champions, whoever, none of them would give him a title shot. This was not race. This was just talent. That's why he wasn't getting his title shot. No champion, no matter of race, would not fight Charlie Burley. The man was like a ghost in the ring. He'd be right in front of you, he'd just disappear. He should be mentioned more when they talk about the best defensive fighters too. Yeah, but he was so skilled all around that, they just don't want to, put one thing on him, because he was just a very skilled all around fighter. Charlie Burley was. And he was a great fighter, despite never having won a title. Yep, Charlie Burley. Okay, welterweight. Another hard luck great was Billy Graham. He was often called the uncrowned welterweight champion. Like the others, he was also a victim of a cruel streak of bad luck and some strange decisions. Like Charlie Burley, Billy was unstoppable. In 126 pro fights, he was never stopped. Knockout, TKO, nothing, never stopped. And he was fighting all the best welterweights and middleweights in the world. Unlike Burley, Billy did manage to get a title shot twice against the great Cuban Kid Gavilan. He lost both times by decision in very close fights, both in 1951, in New York first, and then in Havana in 1952. The fight in Cuba was said to be one of the all-time greatest robberies, but what could he expect fighting a Cuban in Cuba, right? Fighting a Cuban champion in Cuba. What could he expect? You had to knock him out. Although the Gavilan fight was controversial, Billy had one other fight that topped that for drama. On December 19th, 1952, Billy Graham lost a 10-round decision to Joey Giardello in New York City. But right after the verdict was awarded to Giardello, the commissioners, Christian Burry and Powell, changed Judge Joe Agnello's card to enable Graham to be awarded a split decision win. Wow. Giardello took the matter to the United States Supreme Court, and sometime later, the decision was again reversed back to Giardello. Maybe this is why we don't see decisions disputed as much today. They've already been upheld by our nation's highest court. Yeah, how you gonna? The commissioner's gonna change the judge's decision, and the man took it all the way to the Supreme Court. When Billy Graham retired in 1955, he left behind an outstanding record of 102 wins, 9 draws, and 15 losses, and never stopped. And he too was another example of a man who surely would be a champion today if he was still fighting now in this era. The Fargo Express, Billy Patrol. Who was highly thought of by former champion Jimmy McLaurin. From 1922 until 1934, Patrol's record was filled with wins over greats like McLaurin, Tony Canzonieri, Jack Kidberg, Bat Battolino, and other top fighters. Okay, let's take a look at Bob Satterfield. That was the last one, but I cut that one short. Bob Satterfield. How great was Bob Satterfield? No, Oscar Bonavena. Let's talk about Oscar. Oscar Bonavena. How great of a fighter was heavyweight. Yeah, he was right there. Today he would be undisputed, but he was right there in the greatest heavyweight, age of heavyweights ever, with Ali, Foreman, Frazier, Norton, all of them. Yeah, Oscar fought in that era. That's why he never won a title. But he fought them all. See, right there, you got Joe Frazier on the mat. Yeah. And Frazier got up to win it. You know Joe Frazier getting up. You have to kill Joe Frazier to knock him out. Like Foreman almost did before that referee stopped it. Oscar Bonavena. Argentina. Yeah. That's where Oscar was from. Great heavyweight fighter back in the 70s, 60s, 70s. He was in that tournament they had for the, when Ali got stripped, they had the tournament. Yeah, Oscar participated in that. Remember, Joe Frazier didn't. Joe Frazier thought him and Ali was friends, the way Ali treated him. Remember? Called him, Ali went way overboard. But let's talk about Oscar now. How great of a boxer was heavyweight Oscar Bonavena? Now, Oscar Bonavena was a very good heavyweight during the golden age. And he bordered on greatness. Oscar Bonavena was another heavyweight who, if he had had a real trainer, would have been a genuine threat to take the title, even in the golden age of the heavyweights. Oscar smoked, Oscar drank, Oscar partied, and yet he still was a top 10 contender for 11 straight years in the best age of heavyweights ever, and twice was one fight away from the title. Why? Oscar was tough as old shoe leather, strong as a bull, mean as a snake, and hit like a freight train. Who was Oscar Bonavena? Who was Oscar Bonavena? Okay? Glad y'all asked. I'll tell y'all. Who was Oscar Bonavena? Oscar Natalio Ringo Bonavena. That was his nickname, Ringo. He was born on September 25th, 1942, and he died tragically on May 22nd, 1976. Still an active boxer when he had that tragedy. A restless wandering spirit caused Bonavena to leave home in his teens and set out to party hardy and see the world. Now, Oscar had no known amateur career. He began boxing as a pro in clubs in 1964 in New York, where he had moved as a young adult. Under the management of Martin Goldberg, a dentist, Oscar gained a following with an 8-fight winning streak, but was badly booked and trained from the start. And in 1965, with only 8 fights, he was put in and lost against perennial contender Zora Fowley. They threw Oscar in there with Zora. Zora had better than with all of them, Liston, Ali, all of them. And they threw Oscar in there with him with 8 fights, right? Yeah. But guess what? Oscar won the rematch, okay? In 1968, 3 years later, when he was a little more seasoned. That should have been when he was fighting for the first time. So Oscar got him in the rematch. A ferocious, rugged, wall-swinging brawler. He enjoyed professional success in Argentina and the United States. Yeah, you think Billy is something. You should see Oscar Bonavena fight. You make Billy look like a little kid. Oscar was rugged, a ferocious, rugged, wall-swinging brawler. You look at some tape of Oscar Bonavena. The number 3 contender, Oscar was at the peak of his career when he faced Muhammad Ali. This was the second time Oscar had risen as high as number 3 in his career in the rankings. From 1966 to 1971, Oscar was a top 10 contender, rising to number 3 in 1968, but falling back after his first fight with Joe Frazier. He fought Frazier twice. Now, Oscar was 28 years old and had fought his way back to number 3 in 1970. And if he could beat Ali, he would get a second title shot against the champion, Joe Frazier. But instead, Ali got that shot, remember, because he beat Bonavena. That was for the chance to go up against Frazier. Now, Ali won a brutally hard shootout, stopping Oscar in the 15th round for the only stoppage of Bonavena's career. Only time he was ever stopped was by Ali in the 15th round. He made Ali brawl with him. Oscar had a way of doing that. Like, what's his name? Guy that fought Mickey Ward 3 times. Gaddy. I told you, Gaddy could fight Devin. He would make Devin be in the pocket brawling. Gaddy just had a way of making everybody brawl. Oscar was like that, okay? But Ali won a 15-round decision in a brawl. Yep. And Oscar's explanation was simple. For his only stoppage loss, I think no one stopped me, so I let him hit me. I was wrong. Oscar said he didn't think anybody could stop it, so he let Ali hit him. He said he was wrong. Ali stopped. Ali had popped too. At one stretch in his career, Ali had won 23 fights in a row. 20 of them were stoppages at one point in his career. Now, but Oscar should have been so much more than just a contender. The legendary Eddie Futch would say in later years, if Oscar Bonavena had had a real trainer, and if he would have listened to that trainer, he might have truly challenged for the title and won it. 44 of Oscar's 59 wins were by knockout. Of his 9 losses, 6 were to Hall of Famers. The other 3 were Ron Lyle, Jimmy Ellis, and Zora Fowley, all of whom were top contenders for an entire decade. Those are the 3 that weren't Hall of Famers. So 6 Hall of Famers, and then Jimmy Ellis, Zora Fowley, and Ron Lyle. Wow. All from that golden age too. So Oscar Bonavena is best remembered for giving Ali and Joe Frazier ferociously hard fights, and is the only man other than George Foreman to ever undisputedly knock smoking Joe Frazier down. Now, Mike Bruce supposedly put Joe down in Joe's second pro fight. Until the end of his days, Joe swore it was a slip, but that Oscar wasn't no slip. Oscar put it down. only man other than George Foreman to definitely put Joe Frazier down. And Ray Arcel said after the Frazier-Bonavena fight, luckily for Joe, Bonavena didn't train, and nobody trained him. If he really learned to box and he stayed in shape, it would have been different. So those are two legendary trainers saying the same thing. If he had had a trainer and worked hard, because Oscar smoked, drank, partied, all of that. And Eddie Futch and Ray Arcel said if he had had a good trainer and trained, he would have been much better. And since Joe Frazier barely managed to pull out a split decision, one does have to wonder how it would have played out if Oscar had actually trained. And here's another legendary trainer. Angelo Dundee said about Oscar, if Oscar had me training him, he would have been a champion. That's what Angelo said. If Oscar had him, he would have been a champion. So Eddie Futch and Ray Arcel, two legendary trainers, said if Oscar had a trainer, he would have been a champion. And Angelo Dundee, another legendary trainer, said if you would have had me, he would have been a champion. But anyway, Joe Frazier said of Oscar after their first fight, during which Frazier was down twice, but rallied to win a split decision. Joe said, Oscar was the toughest man I was ever in the ring with, hands down. And he fought George Foreman twice, Joe Frazier did. He said Oscar was the toughest man he was in the ring with, not Joe Frazier. And I'm not George Foreman, it's not even arguable. Smoking Joe said it was Oscar. And Muhammad Ali said after he fought Oscar, it was the toughest fight I ever had. Ali said after his career had ended. The 4 toughest fights I were ever in were against Frazier in Manila, Norton anywhere, Ernie Shavers, and Oscar Bonavena. Oscar's style reflected his toughness, power, and strength. Oscar was legendary for his toughness, fearless nature, pure brute strength, power in both hands, and his all-out roughhouse attack. Yeah, I told you think I'm Billy is something. You ought to see Oscar fight. And Oscar wasn't above some dirty tactics if he could get away with them either. Or if he couldn't get away with them. Oscar wasn't above being a little dirty. Oscar was tough as old shoe leather and strong as a bull. Essentially, he attacked from the start of the bell, throwing power punches nonstop. His defense was his cast-on chin. Again, his defense was his cast-iron chin, and his attack mode was straightforward, constant aggression. That's it. You didn't have to count power punches with Oscar. Every punch. Just count every punch. It was going to be a power punch. Oscar didn't do no jabbing or nothing like that. Oscar just coming at you nonstop. And only stopped once in his career, in the last round. Over like 90-something fights. Tough man. Ring Magazine editor, Ned Fleischer, called Oscar Bonavena the most powerful fighter I've ever seen. And he saw Jack Dempsey, Joe Louis, Max Baer, all of them. Ned Fleischer, the founder of Ring Magazine, did. He said Oscar was the most powerful fighter he ever saw. George Chuvalo, a legendary tough guy himself, said, yeah, George is the best chin in boxing history. He said about Oscar, he's a mauler, hard to fight, mean, tough, and heavy-handed. Oscar's power was all-time formidable. Bonavena belongs in a rare club, men with a majority of their stoppages by pure on the floor, going for 10 knockouts. Not TKO. He specialized in knockouts. Referee counting to 10. Not no towel coming in or referee stopping it. 58 wins, 44 stoppages. That's 75%. 24 of those 44 were on the deck. Out for 10 count knockouts. That's 55%, over half of them. Half of his knockouts were knockouts, not TKOs, knockouts, countouts. 25 of his knockouts occurred in the first 3 rounds, 57%, okay, of his wins. Knockouts in the first 3 rounds. Oscar was also known for a very interesting sense of humor. He was known for his antics. At a pre-fight physical for him and Ali before their fight, Oscar asked Ali why he didn't join the army. Ali replied to Oscar that he would tell him during the fight's first clinch. Oscar then called Ali a big chicken and started making chicken noises. Cluck, cluck, cluck. When that didn't get a big reaction from Ali, Oscar then be calling Ali by his pre-Muslim name, Cassius Clay, over and over. But that still didn't get Ali mad. And he took Ali all the way to the 15th round. Yeah. And after Oscar barked at Joe Frazier before their fight, Joe Frazier simply said, Oscar is a nut. Oscar had 2 great nicknames, Ringo and Cash and Curry Oscar. Ringo, Cash and Curry Oscar. Al Booger in the building. And Technique. What's happening, gentlemen? We're talking about Oscar Bonavena now. Yeah, and I was saying, you ever seen Christian and Billy fight? That's kids play after you watch Oscar. That's kids play. Oscar was just, his chin was his defense. Oscar's chin was his defense. And you know how they say, well, so-and-so threw 70 power shots and 60 jabs or whatever. You don't even have to count Oscar's power shots. All of them are power shots. That's all Oscar. Oscar don't even know how to jab probably. Everything he threw was a power shot. And he coming straight at you. 3 minutes for 15 rounds. And only knocked out once in his career. That was by Ali in the 15th round. Yep. Oscar Bonavena. Now, Oscar was called Ringo for his allegedly looking like Ringo Starr of the Beatles. Yeah, I can see a little resemblance. Mm-hmm. That's Oscar up there. That's when he knocked Joe Frazier down twice, but Joe came back to win. But Oscar did have him on the floor twice. Yeah. That's where he got the nickname Ringo, though, because he favored Ringo Starr of the Beatles. Okay. And he had another nickname, Cash and Curry. Why did they call him that? Now, Oscar earned that nickname because he desired his purses in cash. Yeah, Oscar said, I don't want no check. Oscar wanted his purses in cash. Okay, that's where he got the other nickname, Cash and Curry. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Rocky Marciano before him. Oscar did not trust banks, and he hated checks as useless pieces of paper. Yep. Oscar said, give me my pay in purses in cash. Now, greatness requires great competition. Muhammad Ali once said, look at the records, do the math. Look at the records and do the math. Oscar Bonavena faced some of the best of the golden age. He's fought smack dab in the middle of the golden age. Okay. Joe Frazier, twice. He lost twice, but he put Joe down twice in their first fight. He fought Muhammad Ali, Jimmy Ellis, George Chuvalo, Leotis Martin, Jorah Farley, twice. Floyd Patterson, Manuel Ramos. That's a resume right there. There's still more. Ron Lau, Gregorio Peralta, Eduardo Coletti, Larry Middleton twice, Alvin Lewis, Amos Johnson, Billy Daniels, Tom McNeely. Oscar was a top 10 contender 6 straight years. In 11 years out of his 12-year career, he was in the top 10. 6 straight years, and he had a 12-year career. He was in the top 10 11 of those years. But he fought in that golden age. That's why he never got a title. Any other, he probably would be undisputed now. Any other era, Oscar would have had a title. Annually, Oscar Bonavena was ranked 8 years by the WBA and the Ring magazine. Oscar also enjoyed acting, appearing on various Argentinian TV programs, such as the Pepe Biondi Show, and making at least 3 movies. Now let's take a look at Oscar's death. Oscar's sad and puzzling death has obscured his legacy. He was still an active fighter when he had that tragedy too. Oscar was shot to death outside a Nevada brothel on May 22nd, 1976. Oscar was managed by the wife of the owner of the brothel, Sally Conforte. The wife of the owner of the brothel was his manager. There were rumors the two were more than just manager and boxer. Had a little hanky-panky going on. But given a 25-plus year age difference, it is unlikely. Not really. She might have been a nice-looking old woman. But Oscar was, Oscar? 22. No, May 22nd. I don't know how Oscar was in his 20s. I think he was 28. So 25, she was 53. Okay, yeah. But they say her and Oscar was getting it on the side, a little bit more than manager. Okay. So what happened was, Oscar suspected the Comfort Pay of stealing his money. That was the place her husband owned, the brothel. He suspected them of stealing his money, and he went to demand an accounting. His family would say later, Oscar had been warned these people were dangerous and told not to go there by himself. But Oscar really was fearless, and so he went there alone. A bodyguard for Mustang Ranch owner, that was the name of the brothel, Mustang Ranch. The owner name was Joe Conforte. The bodyguard shot Oscar Bonavena through the heart in front of the brothel. The bodyguard, Willard Ross Biner, ultimately pled guilty to manslaughter after a second trial. The exact reason for the murder and shooting of fearless contender Oscar Bonavena may never be known. The second wild bull of the Pampas deserved better. Yeah, the first one was Lewis. He fought Jack Dempsey back in 1921 too. Lewis, I can't remember his name. He was from Argentina too, but yeah, Oscar got shot to death. There was rumors that he was having an affair with the owner of the place's wife, but that wasn't why they shot him. Oscar thought they were stealing his money because the wife was his manager, and the bodyguard shot him. They told Oscar don't go there by himself. You know, Oscar. I'm an Oscar Bonavena. He went there by himself and got killed. I think he was 28, but I know he was still actively fighting. Yeah, this happened in let's see, 1976. Yeah, this happened in 1976. So let's see how old Oscar was. May 22nd, 1976. We got a nice thing on Bob Satterfield. We're not going to get that in. May 22nd, 1976. Oscar was, oh, shoot. I put the date. I'm trying to get Oscar Bonavena. You know how to spell Bonavena? Oscar Bonavena. There it is. 1976, he was 34. He was born in 1942, right? 34, okay. So 25 years, that would make the wife almost 60. 25 years older than him. So she was 59. Yeah. Yep, Oscar Bonavena. Tomorrow is the life and career of Frank Bruno, a British fighter. Yep, Frank Bruno. Techniques, I don't think he's underrated. People say he's Mike's best win. Tyson? Yeah. Just a lot of people just remember him from that fight, but he was much better than that, you know? He was in the era of the best light heavyweights, and he was the king through all that, late 70s, 80s. Yeah, Michael Spinks. Yep. Him and Eddie Fletcher had a good plan for the Tyson fight. But say Mike froze up when he got to the ring and threw the game plan out the window and went out there and went toe-to-toe. Similar to the way Buster fought Mike. Spinks was supposed to jab him. Spinks had that good, deadly right hand that Spinks jinxed. Circle on the outside, and if Mike slipped past that jab, catch him with that Spinks jinx, they was going to try to get Tyson into the late rounds. Because, Mike Tyson wasn't going too deep in fights back then. He was getting them up out of there. 1-2 rounds normally. They were going to get him in late rounds and try to drown him, but they didn't get out of the first round. Yep. Emmanuel Stewart said he went back to Michael Spinks' dressing room before the fight and said Michael Spinks was scared to come out. Yeah. But yeah, Mike Tyson was very intimidating. He won most of his fights a lot of his fights on intimidation. Like Liston did. But yeah, Frank Bruno tomorrow. The life and career. Just Do Boxing coming up next at 4 in 5 minutes. Appreciate everybody. Al Booger, Technique, Just Do Boxing, Mike Mazik, BVO Sports TV, Bruce Gas, Boxing, Jazz, and more. Mike Rim, Yes Indeed Boxing. Appreciate your shower. I didn't see your link in Bruce Gas, BVO, nobody. Okay. But yeah, all great channels there. We got Bruce Gas in here today, BVO, Shower. Yeah, I think, yeah. So everybody, I know everybody has subscribed up to all those channels. But check, because sometimes YouTube will drop your subscription off or something. They be playing games. But I appreciate everybody. The life and career of Frank Bruno tomorrow. And then Teofimo and Shakur. Did they have a press conference? Wasn't they supposed to have a press conference today? Have they had it yet? Well, check out the replay if they have. Probably by now, yeah. It's almost 4 o'clock. Anybody see it? They had a press conference today, I believe. The final one. I'm gonna check it out right now. I think Shakur will get a decision. Good 12 round. I believe Keyshawn and Jermaine Ortiz might be the fight of the night. That's a good matchup, I think. Plus, Keyshawn been out of the ring for a minute. He fought, I think, the Ukrainian guy, Dennis. Yeah, when he got, yeah. I think that's when he got his title, right? In his last fight, that's when all that nonsense went down. And he didn't fight, and then his brother got beaten, and they got to fighting in the back or something. It was Keyshawn's last fight, right? Yeah. But he's back. Keyshawn is young. I think he win this fight, he right back in the mix. Right back in the mix. All it takes is one good win. That's all. Yeah. This will be a nice one. If you can get it from beat Jermaine tomorrow. Saturday. Put Keyshawn right back in the mix. Like nothing never happened. Mm-hmm. One good win, he's forgiven. Everybody done forgot what happened. Yeah. Everybody mess up, Everybody deserves another chance. Okay, but that's going to be it for today. I appreciate everybody for coming through. Just Do Boston coming up next. Yeah, Will want it, shower? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think he'll get it. Be a decision. A couple people were saying Keyshawn gonna stop Jermaine. I don't know. Jermaine can do that movement stuff for 12 rounds. Jermaine always in pretty good condition. Seemed like to me, yeah. No, he's not known to gas. At least I have never seen him gas in a fight. He go 12 rounds and without too much difficulty, seem like. I think it's going to be a 12-round decision for Keyshawn. Keyshawn and Shakur, 12-round decision. Shakur might do a 12-0. It's just like that, Shakur be fighting, seem like he know what the fight is doing before they do it. He always like 2 or 3 steps ahead of his opponents. He throwing this punch. He already know what the next 2 punches or next 2 moves gonna be. It's hard to beat somebody like that. But we'll see. It's Saturday. And this is Thursday. I'm getting ready to go check out this press conference. I know they had it by now. But everybody have a good afternoon. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian bringing you all that boxing is. And Shawa is rooting for Jermaine. I'm kind of leaning toward Keyshawn. But I like both of them. But everybody have a great afternoon. I appreciate y'all.